שלום, שהכל נהיה בדברו. How does one become a leader? How do you assume the mantle of leadership? I think when you look at a situation and you bring solutions that no one has thought of, and you are able to bring them into fruition, you were able to make them real. For instance, our ancestors were in Egypt enslaved, so Moshe became the leader. Why? Because he was solving their problem. Let us think for a moment. What was the problem of our ancestors in Egypt when they were being enslaved? Well, they had to work too hard. Too many hours a day. How many hours a day? I don't know. Maybe 12, maybe 14, very little sleep. So Moshe should have come and said, you know what? I am going to reduce the hours of work that you have. Instead of 14, you're going to work only 8. And people would have applauded him. He would have been considered as somebody who was solving their problem. He would have said, you are going to have more time to spend with your family. They were asking that you should produce bricks without giving you the elements with which to make the bricks. So he said, I am going to speak to Pharaoh, and from now on you are going to get all the necessary instruments. You are going to get machinery, God knows what, in order to make your work much easier. Is that what Moshe did? No. He came out with something altogether different. You know what? Let's get out of here. He didn't say, let's make your work easier, less time-consuming, less difficult, you'll have to produce less bricks. None of that. He said, let's get out of here. And he came to Pharaoh and he asked for that. Pharaoh couldn't understand. What do you mean? If you want to help your people, it's not by going out of Egypt. That is too revolutionary. But eventually this is what happened. And it says in the Torah that as soon as they crossed the Red Sea, Sham sam lo chok u'mishpat v'sham nisau. There he gave them chok u'mishpat. What is chok u'mishpat? It means laws. He gave them already a certain set of laws. Our rabbis say, what laws did he give them? He gave them Shabbat, dinim, which means social laws, and para aduma, a special law that you need a red heifer. You burn this red heifer and you mix the ashes with water, and this concoction you use to purify people. So our rabbis always thought that para aduma is an example of a law that one cannot explain, because the Kohanim, the people that were elaborating this mixture with the ashes of the red heifer, they became impure, while the people that received this concoction upon them, they became pure. So how is it possible that the people that make it become impure and those that eventually get it on them become pure? So they said, you know, this is one of the examples that some laws simply don't have any human explanation. Maybe someday we will understand them, but to this moment we cannot. Let us review for a moment these three things. You know what Moshe said? Moshe said there's something called Shabbat. You are working 7 days a week. That's not the only alternative. The alternative is not to reduce the number of hours. You know what the alternative is? The alternative is that one day you are free from all this altogether. One day is just for yourself, to do what you want with your family, to worship God, to speak to your friends. You have no tasks to fulfill on that day. Not only you. Every creature that God created in this world has a right of 1 day of rest. Even an animal that has to pull a yoke in order to make the earth receptive for seeds, for things to grow, has also a right to rest 1 day a week. So that was revolutionary. It isn't less hours. There is a day in which you can rest. You don't have to do anything. And then he told them something else. You know, there are certain laws. Those laws are equal for everybody, for rich and for poor, for young and for old, for men and for women. Not exactly, but men and women have laws also. Even the king has to abide by those laws. And eventually, in the Torah it says that everybody has an obligation to write a Torah, but the king has a double obligation. He has to carry a Torah with him at all times. He had to write 2 Torahs, one like everybody else, and one to know that he is not an absolute monarch. His will is not decisive on what people have to do. It's the will of God, laws. It says about the high priest, Me'im mizbachecha. You can take him from the altar. If he committed a crime, you take him away from the altar where he's serving God and let him receive the punishment for the misdeed that he did. In other words, he was saying, there are no absolute rulers in this world. It's not the whim of Pharaoh that tomorrow he will say all the firstborn die, or you have to produce more bricks, or whatever it is, enslave the people. There are laws. Everybody has to abide. And what many people think about the Para Aduma, that it's an not intelligible law, I think the message is really something else. The message is that Judaism purifies you. What was the effect of the ashes of the Para Aduma? That was to purify you. That's what we say on Yom Kippur. It's not only that we want to be forgiven for lechaper, to be forgiven. We want letaher, we want to be purified. In other words, religion isn't here to impose limitations and laws that make your life difficult. To the contrary, religion, faith in God, is here to purify you, to elevate you. So the revolution of Moshe was not to make life a little less difficult. Instead of working so many hours, you will work less. It was something altogether different. What you see in Egypt, this is not the way life has to be. There is an alternative that has nothing to do with this. There are laws that are equal for everybody. Everybody has a right to rest one day a week, regardless of who he is. And don't forget that religion is not here to oppress you. Religion is here really to purify your soul.